So I'm gonna call the hearing to order. Let's see if anyone's back there. Yep, we got the thumbs up, cool, okay. So, seeing that it's just after 7, what, as far as action items, if there's anyone here, is anything that we could kind of do with someone here?
If you skip to the last page of the agent report, we have a COC request for 100 Milford Road.
Okay,
That's the self-storage facility.
Yep.
Across from the condos.
okay,
The work is done, the site's stable, they gave us an as-built plan, and I recommend issuing it.
okay. So do I have a motion?
I will motion to issue the certificate of compliance for 100 Milford Road.
Do I have a second? All those in favor? Okay, what's up next?
Is anyone else here for an action item, or which one?
29 Magnolia Lane.
Okay. Same page you guys are on, right at the top. 29 Magnolia Lane.
Okay,
These were old permits that the work actually did not happen under. They got subsequent orders down the road. Those were closed out. These just were never picked up.
okay, so it's cleaning up old title stuff and,
Correct.
okay. So can I hear a motion to that effect, that it's cleaning up some of things that were superseded and actually not done?
So is it issuing the certificate of compliance?
Yep.
But just saying that?
Yeah,
for
just
cleaning
that as the work was never commenced and it was actually done under a subsequent order, and that we're just going to close these. Or you can just say so moved.
So, I was gonna go for that.
Okay.
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
I second it.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Marco Adio, Milford Road. I have a question about my item you just read. Is that for the wetlands and the stormwater as well?
Correct. That's both.
Do I have to pick up paperwork for that, or did they send it?
I can mail it to you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. That's why we're asking if there are people here that we're dealing with some of the discussion items, we'll take those first, so.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay. All right, anything else with folks here, or other just action items or discussion items we can get going with?
One more.
Okay,
I think it's action item, discussion, 11 Wheeler Road. I think, you think that it's,
so, yeah, so yep, sure, thank you for that, and I'll let, hopefully our agent, yeah, I'm trying to get people, if you're here, to take care of them now, so thank you.
That one's on the third page, about middle of the page. 11 Wheeler Road is before planning right now for flexible versus conventional
Okay,
subdivisions, so they were looking for the commission's feedback. Let me pull up those plans. And just a couple notes that I made, they're near Ekblaw Landing, which the town owns, as well as one of the land trust properties. The flexible plan provides more of a buffer
Okay.
between the existing trail system and then the lots that they're proposing.
okay. So you have the conventional one,
So this is the flexible, so you can see this strip here, which would be open space.
yep,
And then if you can see the faint, whoops, that's too far. The faint gray is the existing trail
okay,
that comes in over here
all right,
versus the conventional. The property lines go all the way to here.
Okay. Okey-doke. Does anyone in the commission have any questions about this? So typically, just to give background, is so whenever, just due to the process of going for a subdivision, doing flexible, it has to come in front of the Conservation Commission. We give a recommendation, it's non-binding. We tend to like the flexible plans because it's a more dense development, and that it allows more open space around the outside. and it's in the number of units or number of dwellings don't change, because your number of dwellings is based on the existing traditional subdivision. So you do regular subdivision, which is this one here, and then if you go to the flex, and you'd see all that's really happening is it allows those lots to become smaller, it gets a little bit denser, and then the exterior becomes more of open space. And so, so typically, based on that recommendation and looking at the surrounding area, we would just make a recommendation to the planning board that we would prefer the flexible. And it's a non-binding, but that's pretty much it. So, does anyone have any questions on that?
Makes sense.
Miss anything, Leah?
Do you need to take a vote on it?
Yes.
Okay.
So do I have just a motion to recommend the flexible plan? And that would be our feedback, and obviously this still will need to come for conservation and other things, but at this point, we're just making a recommendation. And also to be noted that it really doesn't matter what we recommend. It's a process. It's still up to the applicant to submit whatever plan they want. So, all right.
I would move to recommend that to indicate that we prefer the flexible plan.
In a second,
I second that.
those in favor? Do you have any questions? I mean, this is our standard process as we kind of go through. I don't know which way you're you're leaning to.
No, it doesn't look like there's any previous discussion, you've already voted, so it doesn't look like the landowner's take on the flexible versus conventional is considered at this point. Like you say, it's a standard recommendation you have. So.
Well, it's not, let's just say it's the one we tend to do, but that doesn't mean we wouldn't have a subdivision come in where we think let's just use an example that's not gonna happen here, but say if all of the flex comes in and you're closer to all of the wetlands and you're closer to everything, well, we're gonna say, no, we don't like that. I mean, our role is to protect the wetland resource areas. So our kind of view on this is stormwater and wetlands. So when you take a site that encroaches towards the wetlands and you reduce that impact, we would tend to make that, and that's why I asked the commission, and that's why we voted that way.
Sure.
But it's not binding.
My only opinion would be, as a landowner, and what we've offered is the sustainability that we're offering. We're giving up, I don't know if you can see it on there, but both some property in the back to the Grafton Land Trust and some along the edge. We feel that creates a larger sustainability, both for the trail and for the wetlands. And as you know, behind us, it goes on forever. There's open space.
Right, which is we're in agreement with you, and that's what we recommended.
Okay, very good.
That's basically what will happen next is our agent will prepare a letter and basically indicate that, we prefer the flexible because it provides better protection for the wetlands, which is all the things you just said is what we agree with, so.
Yeah, only we would prefer the conventional because the flexible backs up the lots to a half an acre instead of basically an acre, which makes our project, I wouldn't use the term undermines it, but it makes it much more difficult in our feasibility to continue the project.
As I said, that's what our approach is to look at protection of what's underneath our jurisdiction. You own the piece of land, and what you submit is totally up to you. I'm not saying anything other than that. We have recommended a flex plan before, and what comes in front of us is a conventional.
Got it. Thank you very much.
Yep, we're just following the process, and I would also just say one thing is that you build in value when you surround your new lots with open space and access to trails, and that's a different conversation, but I would not minimize the value of reducing a lot and actually having that open space around. But that's just something to think about. That's my kind of take on things, so. All right, great.
Very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Have a good one. Okay. Do we have enough time to do one quick one before we?
Do you wanna do the minutes?
Sure, let's do the minutes. Okay, so does anyone have any comments, or I looked at this like, I looked at the minutes. Yeah, so does anyone have any comments or anything on the minutes? Any changes? Okay, see none, do I have a motion on it?
I will motion to accept the June 18th meeting minutes.
Do I have a second?
Do you have a second?
All those in favor? All set. Now it's,
Too quick?
We can do another one.
okay,
Draw it out.
I got a minute here.
All right, if you flip back over to page 3,
Okay.
right under the Wheeler Road we were just looking at is another COC request. This one is 110 Worcester Street.
Okay,
That was for a septic system replacement. It's all done. The site's stable. Their grass has grown in, so I recommend issuing it.
okay, do I have a motion?
Motion to issue the certificate of compliance for 110 Worcester Street.
Do I have a second?
I second it.
All those in favor? Great, we've got another one checked off, cool. Okay, so now it's 7:15. We shift over to this, okay. Pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, the Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, and the Grafton Stormwater Management Bylaw, the Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing to act upon a notice of intent application for a Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw permit, an application for Grafton Stormwater Management Bylaw permit for the construction of a private road for 3 single-family lot development called Meadowbrook Manor at 15 Meadowbrook Road. Come on up. You probably know the process of giving your name and all that side of good stuff, naming it, yeah? And it's, you can use, if you want, you can either use the
Yeah,
screen or like a,
I did bring a colored rendering,
okay,
and the laser pointer kind of sticks on that a little better.
okay, yeah,
So I can speak in the microphone at the same time.
yep, not a problem. Time for a new tripod.
Pardon?
Time for a new tripod?
Someday. Those are like old Sundays. Good evening. My name is Andy Baumer from Summit Engineering and Survey. Here on behalf of Sugar Realty Trust. The project applicant is with us tonight, Mr. Flynn, who also resides at the project location. For the edification of the audience, on the plan, Meadowbrook Road is located on the right-hand side of the property here, or on that display. The address is 15 Meadowbrook Road. If you were to travel south on this, you'd come up with the intersection of Providence Road or 140 down here. There's an existing driveway that comes up. The parcel itself is a 12-acre or 12.5-acre parcel. There's an existing paved driveway shown in gray here that goes up to the existing single-family home located about halfway up the slope. And then there's an existing gravel driveway that goes in the back to here. Most of the property is a running horse farm. There's open pasture pretty much along the limit of clearing here. For jurisdictional wetlands, there is a river, perennial brook, located under a bridge here on Meadowbrook Road. Due to the proximity or distance from the site, you can see a 100-foot riparian zone here that goes through the butters driveway, and then 200-foot buffer that goes right here. For bordering vegetated wetlands, there is a drainage swale that exists on the side of Meadowbrook Road. Charles Karen from Karen Associates did the delineation last fall, and found that this area, although it's a roadside ditch, had hydraulic connection, soils, and vegetation. I'll leave that up to the commission, how they feel on an existing drainage structure being called a bordering vegetated wetland. The property overall slopes. Pigeon Hill is located on the left-hand side of the site, and the site predominantly slopes from left to right. There is a low spot here where you have an isolated wetland located here, and then a bordering vegetated wetland here that goes underneath the cross culvert and proceeds to the south onto the Davy property here. Recently, I think this house was recently constructed, and they built a crossing for that particular wetland complex. The slope continues to proceed to the east, because it's pretty short. This existing gravel driveway is about the break point where the slope breaks to go into the wetland complex or across the horse pasture here, and then towards Meadowbrook Road. This project was a little unique in the fact that the owner wanted to, or the applicant wanted to not maximize the development, but create 2 new single-family home lots here, and then keep the remaining acreage, about 9 acres, as a horse farm. So we have just finished going through the planning board process for a definitive subdivision to create a private road located here. The work entails trying to massage the existing driveway, widen it to approximately 20 feet paved, for adequate access for fire trucks. There is some driveway reconstruction for about 75 feet here. There was a problem being able to get the fire truck in for the vertical alignment of that intersection. And then from here on, it's basically removing some of the existing vegetation and putting down gravel and binder and then top coat here, pretty much along this section here. And then we're providing a T-type turnaround up here to be able to turn an SU-30 or a fire truck around in the cul-de-sac. This part of town does not have town water or town sewer, so we did perform at the beginning of the project some on-site soil testing with the Board of Health. We had 2 testing locations here that passed for a Title V use, and then we also performed a test pit down here near the drainage basin. So, although we show, and it was one of the comments in the review, we show general grading around the individual homes, but these are not final septic designs until a single-family home design comes along and they determine the number of bedrooms and get the proper offsets. So the purpose of the application for stormwater and notice of intent is work located within the buffer zone here. It's approximately, I think 4,500 square feet of disturbance in the outer riparian zone down here. We have no proposed work within the buffer zone up here. I'll show a little bit of grading, but again, that was just generic. The planning board asked us to show that the site could support an on-site septic. Sure, we showed that work, but the road itself is actually terminates prior to the buffer zone. Drainage itself is handled because of the pitching and shimming of the driveway. We have a treatment swale located on the northerly side of the road that goes into the existing proposed drainage basin, infiltration basin here. There is another swale here. If you look at the plans, you'll see there's an existing stone wall here where the water coming off the slope actually hits that stone wall and pitches itself around, or has the potential to pitch itself around. So to alleviate any water potential going onto the sweat property here, we proposed a shallow grass line swale to pitch the water and make sure it's managed into the existing the proposed drainage system. There'll be a berm, containment berm, located around the perimeter here, an outlet control structure, as well as a overflow here that will discharge into the street drainage system. Again, this, for all intents and purposes, this is a ditch that was dug at some point in the history. There's actually a cross culvert here and a grass line swale on the Sweats property that goes to an existing catch basin. I believe it's in the right of way that ultimately goes into the riverfront system. We did also propose a cross culvert here, because there is a high point right in front of this single-family home right here on the roadway. The road is crowned, but some of the road pitches onto the grass here and the gutter flow here. We want to make sure that any water coming off the driveway or off the roadway is not going across the new proposed driveway intersection. As I mentioned before, we did go through the planning board process. We submitted, as part of this application, drainage calculations that were provided or revised and provided to the planning board as part of the subdivision application. All surfaces will be stabilized. There is erosion control proposed around the limit of work on the property, paying particular attention to this location here. Trying to think if there's anything else in particular on this. We did supply some supplemental information at Leah's request. We performed an alternative analysis for work within the riverfront zone, and we looked at three basic alternatives. One, the one is as proposed. Two would be a conventional subdivision. Again, we went through the planning board with a reduced density, and were able to get quite a few waivers from the requirements of the subdivision control bylaw, basically calling this a common driveway under their regulations. Because a conventional subdivision, due to the slope, particularly in this location, we're going to perform quite a bit of earthwork to make that accessible, meet the design requirements of the subdivision control bylaw. So, without any further any comments, I'd like to entertain any questions from the commission.
Sure. So, Leah, can you bring up an aerial of this? So first question is you show a 200-foot riverfront zone down by the roadway. So what happens to, okay, so it goes out like that. I'm
Yeah.
just trying to figure out why it's curved like it is.
Beyond the limit of work up here,
Yeah, well, I'm just looking at it. It looks like it's like a head wall type of thing. I'm trying to figure out why it's shaped that way. That's why I wanted to look at the aerial.
it does deviate away from the site as shown.
Okay.
It might be a drafting error where it maybe should have terminated here rather than arc farther out.
Well, actually, that's where I'm going, is I'm wondering if you should have, how much riverfront should be on this parcel? Because it's just drawn in kind of a funny way.
Yep.
And so it makes me see how it goes angled, how the river goes angled and it comes south of Meadowbrook. And is that a wetland system with a river in it? I'm just trying to figure out.
It's the beginning of the Great Meadows.
Okay, so I'm wondering if you have as much riverfront as you think you do on that parcel. It's more, it looks like, I don't know how someone interpret that, but you should have kind of a triangle at the beginning of it and not that big radius.
Yeah, I think what happened, we have a couple flags that are right off the sheet
Yep,
here. The flagging was very short because the corner of the triangle, or however we wanted to
right,
associate it, is small here.
right. No, I'm just wondering if you're showing too much of that riverfront or if it's at a different
I'd have to go
angle.
down there, so, part of it is how accessible is it? Across the street, there are some wetland delineation flags
Yep.
here, and that is tough to get into once you
Right.
get off the road. And
Yeah,
you can see that, the light green hash, even on the aerial view that you brought up. You can see, and if you look at a photographic aerial view, you'll see that is very loggish. You can see the change in vegetation there.
right.
So that there may in fact be a case where this pulls down across, but.
Again, it's, to me, it's just getting it correct on the plan,
Mm-hmm.
but the correction may be actually shifting it, because it just, when I, you know, obviously it's 200 feet from the bank, you can estimate where the bank, the first change of, you know,
Yep.
slope and so forth. It should be, yeah, I'm thinking you actually have too much riverfront on there, but you can't tell until you look at and offset it.
Yep.
Can you do a distance on the GIS?
Mhm.
Can you just go to like, so see the blue thread is just kind of do that to the corner of the lot? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, okay. 60 feet, okay. Yeah, again, it's just, again, it's an offset and so forth, and, yeah. You're being generous, that's all.
Yeah, well,
I also just want to make sure it's accurate.
mhm.
So, this hasn't been peer reviewed yet for the
Not yet.
wetlands, yeah.
Do you want it to be for wetlands?
Yeah, I mean, as far as, I just don't want to have to go and have certain things be done on the site if, depending upon where the riverfront is, and obviously having the isolated area up above and so forth. So it's just, in general, for where the houses are being developed, the wetlands really are not having an impact
Mhm.
per se. It's more just making sure that, you know, we got everything and it's shown correctly. So that's kind of one question I have is just that shape of what you considered the perennial stream.
Okay.
And we may just find that what you're showing is overly conservative. And if you want to just keep it that way, then we'll say it's okay, but that's up to you, but just want to get a better sense.
Yeah, I mean, our ability to move the entrance farther away.
No,
we're-
no, it's more about what you have to do within those areas
Yeah.
and what numbers you have to meet. So it's kind of the regulatory part of it,
Okay.
you know. So, another question, you're showing that this is all sea soils. What kind of infiltration rates or the soil texture you get at the infiltration basin?
We actually had, these were clearly sea soils when we
Yep.
did the park rate. We actually got much more gravelly material here, believe it or not. I think we're on the edge of an outwash plain of some sort. But regardless, I think for the infiltration, don't quote me, but I think we use 0.17 or a very conservative rate for the drainage basin.
Okay. Any other questions from the commission? I just want to look at a couple of things.
I have a question. Forgive me, can you tell me where, you indicate there are going to be 3 homes or 2?
2 new homes. There's the existing dwelling is here,
Yeah,
up
yeah.
on the hill.
Yes.
And then this lighter pink or salmon color here is just a general approximation of where the homes would be. The lots themselves, one's about 1.5 acres. It's an L-shaped
Okay.
lot wrapped here, and the other's about 45,000 square feet.
I get you. I
Located
was
here.
reading this in wrong.
So,
That ditch you were talking about on your side of the road
Mm-hmm.
has been there forever. I know the ditch.
Okay.
And I believe that was probably, I would guess that was probably put in by the owner of the original Overdorf house, who originally the Kilmer property that owned Stockbridge Farm, that's where the Duchesnes live now, and owned your property where you built your home. So the man that worked for the Kilmers did all of the
Yeah, that ditch has been there forever.
forever.
And there's very little water in that
I,
ditch.
I agree.
Okay? Even though we have a slope from the horse field, there's no water that actually comes down, it doesn't run onto the road.
Yeah.
And yeah, you used .17 infiltration rate.
I did, okay.
So you're taking credit for that infiltration basin as your water quality?
Yes.
So you just, and again, this is something we should just have checked, because just want to make sure it meets all of the DEP requirements, because when you're using an infiltration as a water quality, you're not supposed to use it for detention also. So it's just, I just want to make sure that,
Yeah,
It's-
that has been reviewed by Graves
Oh.
as part of the subdivision.
Okay.
Yes, there's been 2, maybe 3 reviews by Graves
Okay.
on this particular project.
so do we have copies of those?
We do, but he did not look at it in terms of the stormwater bylaw.
Right, as far as the bylaw goes, but as far as,
I'd have to go check the specific items, but I knew we needed him to look at the sizing of the basin.
right, yeah. So to me, it's just double checking that stuff. Obviously, we also use Graves,
Yeah.
so he won't do anything that he's already, you know what I mean? What he's done is done, and so we'll take advantage of what he's already done.
Yeah.
So, as far as, like, I totally understand that you're showing the potential of where the house could be, where the septic system is, rough grading, and you'll come back for, well, you're actually out of the buffer zones for the houses.
Unless, for whatever particular reason, they're in the buffer zone. Obviously, we would recommend to stay out of it, keep the
Yeah,
permitting
you've got some
phase
grading,
easier.
you've got some grading touching the 100-foot buffer, you may want to just adjust that,
Right,
that's
but
up to you.
like I said, that was very, very generic. It's a
Yep.
30 by 60 house blocks, which is, you can say it's an approximate size, although smaller
Right.
than some of those other ones.
So the only thing I would caution you on that is that I have no problem with that approach. It's just that if you're using that size house and then using that size driveway, that's what's contributing to the overall stormwater calculations. So just be careful that you don't restrict yourself to, like, if someone wants to come in and put a house just saying twice as big, then you're gonna be having to come back under
Yeah.
the stormwater to get an amendment to that. Although it may not seem like a big change, it's easier to be a little bit conservative to upfront than have to come back. So it's just making sure that what's submitted and what we review and ultimately hopefully issue a condition on, it covers you enough so that you don't have to come back. And that's for the stormwater side. If you're outside the buffer, you're outside the buffer. But as far as the stormwater part, give yourself flexibility for the amount of imperviousness you're gonna add to each of those particular lots. As far as the septic goes, as far as you're outside the buffer, Board of Health will take care of that jurisdiction.
Correct.
As far as the well, Board of Health will take care of that jurisdiction. As far as stormwater goes, you've submitted your stormwater calcs, so we would just review that based on our bylaw and the stormwater calculations, and that's where Graves come in, so they've already looked at this, so they would do an incremental review as what they've already done.
Okay.
So, do you have any other questions for us?
I don't have any questions, no.
Do you have any other questions for on this particular site? I would just say erosion control is gonna be a challenge on this site, and that will be part of the review. Seeing none, next step is we'd like to open it up to the public. So if anyone's here is interested in the layout of this particular development, if you want to get up and if you have questions or if you want to make any comments, please feel free to do that. Okay, seeing none? Okay. So, so in general, this is a very big general thing. Obviously, the size of the lot, the proposed development, I mean, it's pretty balanced approach because you're keeping such a large lot left, and that existing wetlands is going to be contained in that large lot, and you're staying outside of the buffer zone. You do have, the wetlands down at the bottom, and that is an ACEC, correct? I don't know if the ACEC goes all the way up there.
Yep.
As part of the ACEC. So again, you know, it's just one other thing to look at. I don't see the way this proposed development's being proposed. Yeah, it's, you know, it's well within, you know, what the potential could be.
Mhm.
I don't see any huge problems with what you're doing here. We just gotta make sure that we follow our bylaw and our regs. I'm not seeing anything that jumps out at me. So the kind of next step is just to have, so the questions that we have as a commission is to say, what do we need to be reviewed as far as the wetland delineation? And what other things does Graves need to look at? They've already done a review for the planning board. We would add on to that and just ask them to see if there's anything else as far as the local wetland bylaw or the local stormwater bylaw. The good news is, like, your storms, I didn't look at what you were using for storms. Yeah, it's
It
a
was under
Cornell.
the, whatever extreme condition,
Yeah, it's a Cornell, it's, yeah,
Cornell paper that
yeah. And,
specify.
yeah, so that, those type of things, that's all the same.
That's why I'm just questioning, you know, they reviewed the whole project.
Well, they reviewed it for the planning board, so we're not gonna ask them to re-review everything. All they do is, cause they're hired by the planning board, they'll be hired, you know, through us, and it's just looking at that change. If you knew you were coming for this, you could have requested them to look at everything, but it wasn't in front of us, so we didn't know,
Mm-hmm.
so that's kind of, yeah. They would not, they're gonna do what they're asked to do.
Yep.
And that's from the planning board. So it's just really having those things reviewed and then getting a report back, and then we can talk about conditions and so forth. And it's just making sure that infiltration system works.
One other item, just a procedural thing, we still don't have a DEP file number.
Yep.
So I'm waiting on that.
Yeah, we couldn't close it anyways.
We couldn't close anyways, I recognize that, but.
Yeah, and DEP's, I don't know, 6 weeks backlog, whatever it is. It's not, yeah. And then after that, we would issue both the stormwater and the order of conditions at the same time.
Mhm.
Any other questions? Nothing from the public, so, I mean, to me, it's just getting our peer reviewers to,
Are you gonna have a second walk through the site? Should I try to engage Charles Karen to walk with them?
yes, yeah, so
Okay.
we will reach out to basically our peer reviewer for the wetlands, and that's Ecotech, right? Ecotech, and it's Art Allen.
Yep.
So, yeah,
Will I be aware of the scheduling of that?
yes, absolutely, yep.
Okay.
So, yeah, you know, obviously, I think you'd want your wetland scientist to be out there with them. That's totally up to you. But yes, we would absolutely let you know when they would be going out there. So,
Okay. All right.
other than that, would you like to continue this hearing?
Yes.
Okay. So based on that, can I have a motion?
A motion to continue the public hearing to the next meeting,
When is the next meeting?
9/17.
17th.
Okay.
September 17th.
And hopefully, you know, if Art gets out there and, you know, usually, we're very much like if there's something that needs to be adjusted, we'll let Art talk to your, wetlands person directly, just so that it can get done. We don't need to go back and forth on that. Same thing with Graves, totally open with him contacting you
Yep.
directly, so we can resolve if there's anything left to resolve.
Yeah, the delineation, I think, is pretty straightforward. I don't think there's
Right.
anything really,
Yeah, it's just, yeah.
the topography is pretty,
It's abrupt.
yes.
And
it's the perfect word
it's,
for it.
yeah.
So I don't think we're gonna have a case of worrying about moving a flag.
No,
10
that's fine, it's just a process. We have a motion to continue, anything else?
Second.
Seconded, all those in favor? So see you on the 17th, and Leo will be in contact with you about Art Allen and so forth.
Okay, very good.
Good, good luck. Okey-doke. So that's that. Next up, so we have a continuation? Okay, so I will read that in. Pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, the Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, and the Grafton Stormwater Management Bylaw, Conservation Commission will continue a public hearing to act upon a notice of intent, application for Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, and application for Grafton Stormwater Management Bylaw permit for the construction of 39-lot subdivision at 88 Adams Road called The Writings. The owner has requested a continuance. Can I have a motion to continue?
Motion to continue 88 Adam Road.
Second? All those in favor? (155) George Hill Road. So that is, so we can take that, okay. That's up next, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Pursuant to the Grafton Stormwater Management Bylaw, the Grafton Conservation Commission will continue a public hearing to act upon the application for Grafton Stormwater Management Bylaw for construction of a solar array at 155 George Hill Road. Be my guest.
You get me again.
Yep, that's okay.
Different. So again, my name is Andy Baum from Summit Engineering. I'm here with Mike Lottie from Industria Engineering. Continuation on a stormwater application for the solar array located at 155 George Hill Road.
Okay.
And I know it's been a little while, but based upon our last hearing, two big items that we were requested to look at were, one, the interim condition of the drainage system, given we're going from a woods to a meadow type condition. So what I did is I discussed this with Graves Engineering, Mr. Walsh, regarding what his feelings were if I analyzed this area here, which is where the solar array is gonna go, with a curve number of 78. And what we found was two of the basins had to be expanded, one located here, and I believe the one located here. You'll see, if you compare the two plans, you'll see that the capacity of both of those basins were enlarged to accommodate that curve number of 78. And then I analyzed that for a 10-year event, considering, okay, we'll look at, while that site is being stabilized, the 10-year event, how does that basin
Okay.
perform? And then I ran all the other storms with the resized basins with the final or stabilized, fully stabilized condition. You'll also notice if you compare the two through the planning board with the site plan review and special permit, this basin here down by George Hill Road, the driveway itself, the entrance of the driveway was pushed approximately 25 feet to the south. So we took the opportunity with that extra real estate to expand the size of that basin as well, just because we had the room to do that. So reran, you have a resubmitted set of drainage calculations that reflect that condition. We also, the other major item was the phasing of the project. So we broke the project into 6 major phases, trying to get the threshold of 5 acres. The first phase is actually 5.5 acres, but I think the real condition, it's like a long snake. Okay, we've got the laydown area, the initial laydown area located here, the driveway or access road around the perimeter, so we can engage, full access. That's how I end up with 5.5 acres. But it is, in some places, only about, I want to say, 50 to 60 feet wide here. And then the second phase involves the cutting and stabilization and construction of temporary basins. We took the grading from the proposed basins and brought the bottom of the basin up about 2 feet, so you wouldn't have a condition of clogging. of the basin, bottom of the basin with silts. And we also added, using mulch grindings every 100 linear feet that we can use as filtration swales across the slope. So that, I don't know if you recall, your overall slope of this site, the top of the hill is about here, and it slopes from northeast down to southwest. It's a pretty homogeneous slope all the way down. So we are showing additional grindings that they can drive over or operate over, parallel to the slope, so that any water coming down has a chance to filtrate and slow down. The overall premise of the phasing plan was to have the access road get all this activity, lay down parking and whatnot out of this front area and closer to the work. And then basically work their way out of here. Once we establish the site and get the limits of work established, clear the first array, stump the first array, okay, and then get that stabilized so that they can move on to clearing the second array area while these guys are working on a semi-stabilized surface here. We just closed with the planning board yesterday, last night. So, I think we set a record for getting out of there before 7. The only other item that came up with the planning board, and I don't know if the commission, what their concerns were, but there was some concern about the trail network on the property. So this figure also shows these light green lines of the existing paths that we can identify either through the aerial or through all over with the GIS system. If you look down here, there's a trail that goes all the way down to Leland Street right along the power line easement. This trail is actually bisected by the project. So we proposed to the planning board and also to Grafton Land Trust here, rerouting this access out and around to maintain that connectivity of the trail network that exists out there. So we do have a condition in the site plan approval to work with the land trust, essentially, to come up with the exact routing of that to minimize any, so we don't want to go through and clear cut trees and whatnot to put in a trail. We'll have to work what that is, but the general fashion is there's enough property distance between the property corner and the fence line to be able to snake something through and maintain that connectivity. So I believe those are the 3 major items that we discussed. Well, 2 of the major items we discussed, and the trail item was one that came up about 2 weeks ago, or a week and a half ago.
So I just have a couple of quick questions, and these are more clarifications than anything else. When you look at the fence line, that's the clearing, the tree clearing line, correct?
Yes, with the exception of there is no fence proposed along the access in here.
Yep. Correct. And so, but the area underneath the array, that's going to be grubbed?
And stumped?
Yes.
Yes.
And then the area outside of the array, is that also going to be stumped and grubbed? Or is that going to be left with the?
No, the area, which we really call in phase 2, mostly holds the swales and the basins.
Yep.
So that area will be where there's basins and swales, but once we're outside where we're driving posts, we generally leave stumps unless they're too large and you can't
Right.
get past them.
And again, the only reason I'm asking that is the more you can stabilize the ground and leave those there,
Yes.
the less potential you have for erosion. It holds the soil. So especially, I understand with underneath the arrays that you can't do that.
Right.
But once you get outside of that,
Specifically the area to the south, between there's a little extra clearing.
Yep.
Mostly for shade because of the trees.
Yes,
And
yeah.
that area, we're not gonna touch the stumps in there, except for where the drainage swales come through.
Okay.
Yeah, there is a swale located here, so collect water and direct it towards the basin.
So we just want to make sure, that what we'll do is we'll put a condition in our order of conditions just to memorialize that, because it's not clearly shown on the plans. And so we'll just make sure that that's one of the things. That was kind of a clarification I had. Obviously, Graves has completed their review. They've come back. There's been several changes to the drainage. So that's been taken care of and you responded to on these plans. As far as your comments about how to control erosion, using, the grindings to have, they're called different things, wing rows and things across, so you can put them every 100 feet. That's kind of the minimum. That's a good place to start. If you get storms and you find that that's insufficient, you'll have to add more of them. But with everything with erosion, you really don't know how well it works till it first rains. And then when it rains, you just have to be prepared to, add things to it. But that addition is definitely something I was looking for, so. Anything else from the commission? Okay. Any comments or questions from the public on what the changes are and kind of what the next steps or anything else? Anyone else has any comments or questions? So next things we'll do is talk about conditions now and talk about, based on what the changes were, we will have certain conditions. We have a set of standard conditions, things like having, a construction kickoff meeting, those type of things. Erosion control needs to be installed prior to work commencing. So we have a series of those standard things. Then we'll get into the special conditions, which would be what we just talked about, of leaving the stumps in place. I mean, cut the trees, but don't disturb the ground cover except for to remove the trees themselves in those areas outside of the array, outside of stormwater, but within the fence where you're clearing. Also, another suggestion that we can chat about is basically have a revised O&M plan to show, to be submitted to us, that includes contact information for responsible parties, a copy of the maintenance easements, and a copy of any other maintenance agreements. Basically, you should be submitting your SWIP to us. Now, we're not going to review the SWIP, we're reviewing the erosion control plan, but we want a copy of the SWIP for our records. For everyone's benefit, a SWIP stands for Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan. Anytime you disturb over an acre of land, you have to get a SWIP permit, or what they call a construction general permit, from the EPA. And that actually gives you a lot of details. It's a little thick book of how you're supposed to maintain erosion control on site. It's called a general permit. Basically, you submit the forms and you're fine. If there's an issue out there and EPA has to come out and visit you, you have to have that SWIP on site. And if you're causing problems or polluting or doing other things that you're not supposed to do, dealing with erosion control, the EPA can fine you. They don't do a review of it, but they carry a very big stick with fines. That's the way they enforce it. So we're not going to review that package, but we want to have it in-house for our files. It also tells us that, yes, they've actually submitted that, what's called the SWIP. So, and also just, this is we're going to do a condition instead of having you resubmit this, but you should add the culvert that you're adding to the sequencing sheet under phase 1, item 3. So that's just an update, so that'll be a condition. What else am I missing, Leah, as far as other conditions?
That's all I had for conditions. We just need to vote on their waiver request.
Okay. So the waiver request is, from our local bylaw, is we typically want a 1-foot contour, and that's because when we're dealing with most site developments, you need at least a 1-foot contour to actually understand what's happening with the grading and the drainage. This type of project where it's on the side of a hill, adding an extra contour between two other contours that are all the same does not add any level of increased benefit to the review and to showing what's being done. So I don't know if the commission has any other questions. They're requesting it on this particular because of the type of the project, the type of the slope, and how, how continuous the slope is without irregularity, that would be a reasonable request. No other comments? Do I hear a motion? Because we do have to vote on all waivers.
I'll motion to issue a waiver to allow the existing conditions to be shown in 2-foot contours, based on the project and slope and,
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, do I have a second?
I second that.
Any discussion on that? And all those in favor? Aye. It's been a long week and it's only Tuesday. So that's the waiver, and that's just a process because whenever we have a plan submitted that doesn't meet our specific requirements, we have to issue a waiver, and that's based on each individual project. There has to be a unique reason why we would waive that. All right, any other conditions? I mean, my biggest concern about this site is erosion control. Obviously, I've expressed that previously. You've added, you've enlarged the basins, you've added a lot of controls, especially, putting in the wing rows. That is, do a big part of it. I don't see anything else, anything I'm missing.
The only thing I had was when they came up with the proposed trail relocation plan.
Yep.
That's kind of been a side conversation in relation to the Chapter 61 status of the
Okay.
property. So I just didn't know if we should include a finding just referencing that plan is something that's happening as well.
Okay. Yeah, that's absolutely. So the findings are just the reason why we'll have a finding on why we did the waiver. So yes. And as far as the trail relocation, I totally agree that you don't need to detail it. It's more of a performance spec where you're going out there and you're finding the route around trees, and it's a pretty light touch as far as making something not accessible but walkable, and making sure that it fits with the character of the land. Okay. Seeing no other questions, last chance for the public to say anything. Sure, come on up.
Okay. Is this thing working?
If not, you can come to this one right here. You can just pull it up if the green light's on.
Hi. Green light's on.
Yep.
Yeah, so this is Rob Aberg, 43 South Street, representing Grafton Land Trust. I just wanted to make it a condition that the trails are rideable by horses, because the current coding in the assessor's office for this Chapter 61B is horse trails.
Okay,
And so walking is good, but it is horse trails, so I want to make sure we maintain that capability.
okay, absolutely, thank you for that, and we'll add that. I don't know if the applicant has any comment on that, or I don't know what the difference is, to be quite honest, but it's just, yeah,
Height and girth.
yep. That's true. Yes, yeah, so, all right, so we have our waiver, we have our conditions. Do I have a motion to issue the order of conditions?
I'll make a motion to issue the order of conditions,
As previously discussed.
yeah, as previously discussed.
Second that motion.
All those in favor? Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask about the process for getting the order of conditions? I don't want to be too pushy, but we're on a very tight schedule.
So, what we typically do with the orders, although there's a regulatory thing of, as you know, we have X number of days, 21 days to issue, our typical process is we'll actually sign the order tonight,
Okay.
so that, because we all work and we're all, so we'll sign it. Leah will actually take all of our notes and create the conditions. Some of them are already probably done, because we have a lot of standard ones. And usually, I'll now ask Leah to tell you the timing of that, of when you can get to it.
Hopefully this week.
Yeah. So, and then she can reach out to you, call or email you, and
Okay.
let you know when it's ready. And then obviously, you'll need to record that.
Right,
So,
yeah, because we have the planning board ones also that we're
Yep.
picking up tomorrow, I believe. I'd like to push, but I'm not trying to.
Yeah, don't worry, that's not gonna happen. I'll tell you that.
And
It's
we'll
a-
be recording some portions of it on Friday, so if we can do it this week, great. If not, Monday
Yep.
works fine too.
Yeah,
So-
and again, we're pretty quick with turning around paperwork, so we're pretty good at that.
You want me to let you know so you can pick it up versus put it in the mail?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Okay, very good. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right, thank you very much.
All right.
Actually, we have one other thing on that property, which is the chapter
Okay,
and discussion,
yep,
just if you wanted to take that next.
okay. And where is that?
That is on the last page, almost the last item.
Okay.
Okay.
So just to recap, the land is chapter land.
Yep,
We had an internal meeting on the 6th. As we've already discussed, the land trust brought up the trail system that was gonna get cut off.
okay,
So they proposed rerouting it. The plan was submitted to planning. They found it to be acceptable, as well as the land trust.
yep,
And assessors and planning have both submitted their recommendations to not purchase the property
okay.
to the selectmen. So
So,
we just need to provide ours.
yeah, so we'll just have a quick vote and make a recommendation that we do not recommend pursuing purchasing the land.
Okay.
So do I have a motion?
Motion to recommend not pursuing the land.
Second?
Seconded.
All those in favor? Yep, okay. Okay. Next up. Have a good one. You here for anything else? Yeah, we are. Okay, no,
Oh, that's right.
so that's why I'm asking, because we have a bunch of other to-dos, so we'll happily move that to the top.
Okay, so that is.
I'm all for getting people out of here as quickly as possible, as I wish to do.
That would be the item right before the one we just did. So on the last page towards the bottom, we have received the draft CR for the Robinson land. It's also before the state for their approval. We've been advised by town council to wait till the state actually accepts it before the town does. However, if the commission wanted to take a vote saying it's accepted contingent on state approval, I suppose that's doable, as long as the state
Sure,
doesn't
come on up.
change it.
I guess I could represent. Can you hear me?
Yes, just your name, just so that you have it.
This is Robert Aberg again. The main thing with this is, I think you guys have already voted to accept this land trust holding the CR
Yep.
pursuant to being, state. But this one for tonight was, this is the draft of the CR. It follows the state template because we've been advised that if it doesn't, it won't be accepted.
Okay,
So the only part we filled in was the I state your name and, the description of
Okay.
the property and why it should be conserved. But if you guys have any other input that you think would help move it along with the state or anything like that, now's the time to get changes to the draft if there's any wording. The only creative exercise really is in the why is this worth protecting section.
right.
And it's in the area of critical environmental concern.
There's a list on this one.
Yeah, and there's a list. And so I went through that and did my best creative writing exercise for that. But really, the rest is boilerplate
Right.
as far as we're concerned.
So is there anything else that we have to kind of add to it, Leah, or is
Yeah.
no, we're pretty much set? So the question really comes down, do we do a contingent vote based on it not changing, getting state approval?
Yeah, if the state doesn't change it, right?
Right. I mean, I don't see the harm in doing that. I mean, I understand that we shouldn't approve it before the state, but I don't know.
And I
Is there any
think
downside
town
to?
council said, just don't sign it.
Right, right, yeah, I mean, just so that, you know, and that it's
We
there.
don't have to wait a month.
Right, and then if it does get approved, then it's approved by the state, then we already have our approval done.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, somebody will have to sign something at some point.
yeah, that's
It's
fine.
it's the selectmen, right?
I think Conservation
we on it
Commission
too?
and Selectmen and
Okay.
I
and
sort of remember the chair signing some stuff.
Okay.
Not that I'm volunteering or
there's a
anything
bunch
at
of
this point.
exhibits that are on the end and some are conditional, so
Okay.
we'll
So-
do whatever town council says.
So do we have a motion?
Yeah, to accept accept it contingent on the state approving it with no changes, correct?
All those in favor? So that's all set.
Okay,
So at
great.
least if, it may not save you any time, but there's a potential it could save a little time, so.
But yeah, and so this is our 2019 first one using the new template.
Yeah.
But remember, we also have the Great Meadow purchase from 2015 that's right behind this one, so cross your fingers that we can just.
Okay.
It's a very similar description because it's on the same watershed.
Yeah, and I'm very happy that you guys take the CR on it, because it's really important. It's,
Yeah,
it
and
doesn't work without a
And we
partner.
may have a third one at 21 Wheeler coming up that
Okay.
I think you guys own our land, but we'll have to see what the developer
Yeah,
does.
it's,
the
you need
40B.
the partner, yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah, however that works.
So that's still rattling around, just so you know.
Okay,
But it should be coming up. But we want to use the same template and kind of keep it flowing.
okay, great, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. All right, what's next?
Are they here for something?
Are you just watching us to be? Okay, well, you can certainly stay. You could also tell you that we're short one member.
Showed up 2 weeks ago.
Okay, we're also
Everything's fine.
Yep. So we're also short one member, so if anyone's interested in joining the,
What I was doing, I would volunteer.
I'm actually beating the bushes for volunteers.
oh, I appreciate that. I am not shy about asking people because,
I mean, for you guys.
oh, I know, but I'm saying I'm also not shy about asking. It's just, it's doing your civic duty, and so, thank you very much. Thanks.
Thanks, guys. See you soon.
Okay. All right, next items.
Okay, if you want to rewind to page 2, and we
Okay.
can just go from there forward as to what we've skipped.
Okay,
So under action items, we did the minutes. The next one was that since Scott has left, we need reps to a few subcommittees.
okay,
We keep tabling it when we don't have all 4 of the remaining commissioners here. We could continue to do so if you so choose.
so my first question is, anyone interested in serving on one of these? So what it is whenever these type of committees, they get representatives from planning board, Concom and stuff, so you go. So like right now, I'm on CPA. So that's it for me. So,
I'd be interested in the open space and
Okay.
recreation committee.
sure.
That's sort of more of my passion too.
Yep. Now, is Hassamasset, do they even meet anymore?
I don't believe so. I think it's on hold, so we could just wait on that one.
Okay. And Lake Quinsigamon, they don't do, they have meetings, but,
Yeah, I think they're once a month.
yeah, okay. And, if you want to do it. If not, don't worry about it. I mean,
My plate's pretty full. If I
That's-
couldn't give it 110%, it just,
no, that's absolutely fine. I mean, the worst thing to do is try to commit to something that you can't make and stuff, so.
yeah.
But no, thank you for, I'd be interested in the open space, but I'm at capacity,
Yeah.
and so thank you very much.
This will put me definitely
Yeah.
at the edge of capacity, but that's definitely a passion area for me, so.
Yep, and I know that
Thank you.
that one, they're getting close to completing the update, so that actually is probably not a long-term commitment.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so, but that's great. So why don't we have a motion?
Just to add one thing, I can think about the Sennemisset Woods. I just need a little bit more time to absorb that and look into it.
Right,
You
and right
know.
now, they're not meeting,
Yeah,
so.
well, not that yeah, so.
So it's one of those things where that's great to keep in mind, and then, we can figure that out.
Yeah.
So do we need a motion for
I
it to?
think we have in the past.
Okay, so okay, motion to, so just on the open space one.
Motion to appoint myself.
There you go, that works. There's a second,
I will second that.
all those in favor? So thank you for doing that. Yeah, that one's not a bad one, because it is, we talked about the super park and a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, that'll be
Okay,
interesting.
enforcement order for Lord Vale.
Yep, this is the one we had talked about a couple meetings
Yep.
ago. They had the sewage, leak.
Yep.
They did a second round of testing, which showed a decrease in nutrients and bacteria within their infrastructure.
Yep,
The numbers did go up downstream, but
sort of makes sense.
they attributed it to it being shallower, stagnant, and warmer water.
It's kind of nature, yep, okay. And then they're not supposed to come back till September, correct?
They were supposed to come back for the second round of testing.
Oh, okay.
So from here, if the commission felt comfortable with it, they could do an enforcement order release, or you could not. They didn't ask for one. You don't record an enforcement order.
Right, so why don't you just leave it for one more month, and then if there's any other updates, or if they contact you, I think based on what they've already done with the first round and now the second round, I think they're demonstrating that, not that they did some, but, you know, basically they went and they hired someone to do the independent testing, so, okay. All right. Okay. Okay. So 44 Estabrook.
Okay, this one, it's sort of on hold, but they were requesting a minor change to add a few things, gravel drive, a shed, shelter, with a concrete pad, a fenced-in paddock, and another concrete pad for, battery storage for the array.
Okay.
All of those items would be within the area previously approved for disturbance on their
Okay.
plans. They said it does not impact the drainage system as they currently proposed it, but we are having Graves check that statement.
Okay.
Also, the width of this drive might change due to the fire department's requirements.
Gotcha.
So we might have to check it again if those numbers change. So because those reviews are on hold, I recommended taking no action right now.
Okay, I have no problem with that. We don't need to do it twice. Okay. And basically, your general thought is that this is a minor change and we can do it administratively.
It seems to be, yeah.
All right, that works, but we'll do it once we have final plans and know that things aren't changing.
Okay, then the new DPW facility needed to come up with a dewatering plan for their well test.
Yep.
So I wanted to show that to you guys. We've gone back and forth a few times. They want to utilize the existing basin that they have already excavated on site,
Okay,
with 2 rows of straw wattles at the end, and the well test actually is from down here, so they want to pump the water into the basin as it's currently excavated.
Okay.
And so I asked for calculations to show that that would be okay. So they provided those in the corner here.
yep,
So if those numbers are correct, it looks like it would work. But I wanted to show it to the commission for approval. I can zoom in, easier to read.
yeah, it's just, I mean, he's doing a simple volume calc of the fact that they have to do a 24-hour test, and he's assuming 10 gallons per minute. Well, that's controlled by the pump. And if they pump it up. So where's the well? It's down off of this sheet, right?
Yeah. It's about here.
And what's the well in relationship to any of the wetlands?
So this is actually only a stormwater permit.
Oh, okay. Okay,
I'm trying to open the plans right now, but it's kind
Too
of
big.
frozen.
yeah, okay. I'm
Our- they-
just wondering if there's anything else going on for this well test that we should be
So they
asking.
are in the ACEC.
Yep,
And we did have a condition that you cannot discharge anything on site. However, they are claiming that anything that would need to leave the basin would be like the equivalent of a trickle.
I kind of generally agree with that, unless they hit some very unusual well.
Okay. So there actually are wetlands further off-site. They were not in the buffer zone.
Okay.
So it is only a stormwater permit, but there are some down here.
Okay. No, it's just, to me, it was just trying to figure out if, basically it'd be like taking 3 or 4 garden hoses and putting them into the basin. It's not like a fire hose or something. So
Okay.
it's, Have you had an opportunity to go out and take a look at the site?
Yeah,
How
I've
is
been
the
there a few
site?
times. They're doing pretty good. Their erosion control has been up most of the time except the one heavy rain we had, and then they fixed that.
Okay,
Salt shed's practically done.
okay,
They've done a lot of concrete, for foundations.
yep,
They have more of that coming up this coming week, so I'll probably be going out there again.
okay. Yeah, I mean, I mean, the calculations are the calculations. I mean, basically they're, I think I would generally agree that unless it's an unusual aquifer and they're getting, 50, 100 gallons per minute, it's more likely gonna be 10 to 20, and that's what comes out, and then you pump it up, so.
Okay.
I was just curious what was happening at the test site and what they were doing at the test site, because you're gonna have the water pump out of the well.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have something there and then pump it up, unless they intend to pump it all the way up to the,
So every time I've been there, the area where the well is already has a black hose coming out of it.
okay,
A really long hose that's just been sitting there.
okay. So
Until-
if they pump it all the way up, then I don't really have any issues with it.
Okay, if the hose goes from the well all the way to the
Yeah.
basin.
Then I don't care, then that,
Okay,
not that I don't care, it's just that I'm not worried about them doing all this disturbance at the well site.
okay,
That's all I was like.
okay.
Yeah. So, so we don't really need to do, I mean, as far as you want us to do a motion on it, or,
That would be helpful. The conditions just worded that they'll submit one for approval.
okay. All right, so do I have a motion on that?
Yeah. Motion to approve the dewatering plan for 48 Old Westboro Road with
Yep.
the requirements stated.
Do I have a second?
Seconded.
All those in favor? Yep, okay. All right,
Then if you skip down a couple,
yep, to Hillview?
correct. These are more orders to clean up, just for
Okay,
for the purpose of cleaning up the records.
okay,
The work didn't commence under those orders. They got subsequent orders, just like the one we talked about earlier this evening.
do I have a motion?
Okay. Motion to issue the COCs stating the work was not completed under these orders for Hillview Estates Lot 5.
I seconded.
All those in favor? Yep, aye. So, I'm sorry. You threw me off by jumping right in there and being efficient. Oh, my words. Okay.
Actually, do you wanna, or can you add in, it's not just lot 5, it's also 1, 3, and 4 Avalon Way?
Oh, sorry.
Yes, we can. Yes, go ahead.
And amend that to include 1 Avalon Way, 3 Avalon Way, 4 Avalon Way.
I have a second.
I seconded.
Thank you. All those in favor? You notice it's like that robot thing that I just need to like do the same thing. Okay. Partial COCs?
3 Silver Spruce is a house within, the subdivision, I believe it's Highfields.
Okay,
So this house is all set, but the subdivision as a whole has not been closed out yet, so they just need partials.
okay.
I did check it out. They have grass and everything growing, everything's stable.
Okay. So do I have a motion?
I would move to issue partial COCs for 3 Silver Spruce Drive.
I seconded.
All those in favor? See, now I'm getting up to speed here.
I'm getting jig on.
So the next one, do I have a motion?
Motion to issue COC for 25 Faulkner Road.
I seconded.
All those in favor? And another partial COC, do I have a motion?
I'd make a motion to issue partial COC for 7 Summerfield Drive.
I seconded.
All those in favor? Outstanding job, everyone. Let's keep on going.
Very efficient.
Okay, the next one I actually have a question. 19 Leland Ave.
Okay,
When I went out there, there were 2 items outstanding. One was that they did not have their no disturb signage in place.
yep,
The other was that they had not taken their erosion control out yet. I had the applicant come in today, and he had said that he had put in no disturb signage in the past, and then the owner took it out. So he went out and put it back in again, and thinks that they will just take it out again. So I asked him what it is on, and he just said pressure treated wood.
yep,
He gave me a few photos. I have not been back out to see this in person. I'm not sure that the sign itself is weather resistant, which we also require.
yep.
And the wording I believe we use is a secure post.
Yep.
So I don't know how the commission feels about, do they need to do something else for their signage so that it stays there?
So as far as the wood post, I don't have a huge issue with, as long as it's driven, it's pressure treated, and the connection from the sign, but is that paper?
Looks like
It
a
seems
small-
like foam board.
Does that qualify as a post? It's like a 1x3.
Oh, it's only a 1x3, I thought it was a 2x4.
It looks like a 1x2 or 1x3.
Okay, so I guess the bottom line, if you go out and take a look at it, and if it's not meeting, I mean, you can just call you and get the specs for the typical sign.
I showed them what it should look like.
Okay, all right. So we'll take no action tonight, and if you can just check, yeah. And then as far as erosion control, then you can check at the same time if that's gone.
So you're fine with them using the wood if someone could just yank it back out again?
Well, I'm thinking a 2x4, like 3 feet in the ground.
Oh, okay.
I'm not talking about a 1x3, 6 inches into the ground.
Okay.
3 feet into the ground?
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, you want it so people can't go and just pull it
Oh,
out.
yeah, but you ever dug a 3-foot hole?
Yeah, I have.
Good. You wanna come over to my house?
No. I've done granite bound, so, yeah.
No, it just, yeah, you just want something that somebody can't be messing with and.
Right, yeah, but you don't have to dig a 3-foot hole. You can dig a hole and then pound it in.
Right, yes.
So there's tricks to doing that, but the bottom line is you don't want to be able to go out and go this
Yeah.
to it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay,
And I think also to just put the material that the sign is on is more weather
Right.
proof and,
Yeah, I wonder-
we have standard ones. They're 4x4, and what, are they plastic or metal?
The
or-
metal. And I showed it to them, and I told them local sign shops have it.
Yeah, you just, yeah, they'll have all the local Concom stuff, and
yeah.
it's really easy to access it and so forth. It can't be that expensive, I'm guessing.
I wouldn't think so.
Yeah, okay. All right, discussion items.
I have an update on the Adams Road drainage situation.
That's good.
Town council is trying to proceed with what options the town would have. They've come up with 3 plans. The first is to get an easement from the developer
Yep.
along the southern edge of 38 Adams, and then the town would put a drainage pipe there. That would have to go to October town meeting.
Okay,
The second one is to pursue a taking of 38 Adams Road to then install the pipe.
Yep.
That would also have to go to town meeting. The third one is if for some reason those didn't pass at town meeting, the town would install steel plates over the catch basins to restore country drainage to the area.
okay. Well, that will help solve that problem for those specific abutters. It's not really the greatest long-term solution. Okay, but I appreciate the update.
Then we have the water bodies in town, and how we were looking to manage them going forward potentially. So I met with a representative from Solitude Lake Management, and we went around to basically get every water body we could see from either town property or a street edge or wherever we could look.
Yep.
So we visited most of them. The main takeaways, we'll save Fisherville Pond for a minute, because Helen has more information on that as well, but the other 2 that were at the top of the list would be Lake Ripple. He said there's basically every invasive you can imagine in that one.
It's not surprising.
He estimated 30 to 40,000 for herbicide. And then another one, which I have a picture of, is Hayes Pond, which is the one behind Pine Grove Cemetery. So this one would be something for the commission to kind of make a decision going forward on what would want to see there, because he said it's on its way to turning back to a wetland, which is just the natural process.
Yep.
But if we were to intervene now, we could get it back to more boatable and fishable. So that would be about 6,000 for herbicide there. He thought that CPA funds are how some towns fund these projects. But like I said, Helen has more information on
There all the time.
what other towns have done. And so then if we turn over to Fisherville Pond, which is the one at the top of the list, the water chestnut is really bad.
Yep.
He had two options, 20,000 for herbicide or 35,000 for mechanical harvesting. But I think Fisherville needs to be at the top of the list, probably with Lake Ripple second, and Hayes Pond is something.
So I have a picture of Hayes Pond, because I go walking down there all the time.
Okay.
That's, and I was out there this past weekend, early in the morning, I just took a picture, sent it to my sister and stuff, so, yep, it's my walk.
Oh, that's Hayes Pond. I wasn't sure which one that was.
Yeah, it's just down the end of my street. It's safer to walk in the cemetery than on the roadways. So question on the funding of these. So is there any state funding available for these?
It's limited.
It's
So
limited.
I'm actually gonna ask Helen to give her update, cause she
Okay.
has more info on what other towns have done.
Okay,
I've reached out to a past commissioner and said, her name, Donna Williams.
okay,
Maybe you've heard of her. And she works closely with people in Worcester, the Worcester area, the commissioners in Worcester that
Yep.
manage those ponds and not so much lakes, but the ponds in Worcester, and then a gal in Mendon. And they have responded very immediately. And most of this, they refer back to the Solitude Lake Management as people who they reach out and
Okay.
they're good people to work with. They indicated that the funding are either private fundings or with this CPA funding.
CPC?
Uh,
Really?
I haven't talked to Joanne yet, I was gonna have a conversation with
Okay.
her.
All right, go
Using CPA funds.
Yeah.
They say also that the individual towns, they try to rustle up donations from banks
Yep.
or businesses. They have volunteers that actually go out and hand pick this stuff,
Yeah,
which I think is like an enormous,
yeah, well,
yeah.
Yeah.
This I took back in July, and this is not at the boat landing of Fisherville, where it is not as bad, anywhere as bad. This is bad. I mean, it's encroaching the entire
oh, yeah.
water area.
Surface, yeah, it's just,
And I was told that this water chestnut is highly invasive.
Yep.
And what it does is it just will seed itself.
Yep.
And then it will just regenerate, and choke out everything.
and it kills it uses dissolved oxygen and kills, and have fish kills.
Yeah. So, in a twinkling of an eye, it just, we're talking the size of the water body. Probably this is just a couple of years old that
Yep.
has done this. Of course, the right weather, the right environment, everything
It's
is.
been wet, it's been
but
hot,
it's-
yeah.
So it's
Okay.
perfect. But I'd be willing to investigate it more and see exactly how the town can be, helped out.
Yeah.
I mean, I am not sure if this body of water, who actually owns this body of water, the Fisherville Pond? If it's state-owned, or
Okay.
if it's part of the Blackstone, and if the Blackstone is actually state-owned, or if that's, each town that it goes through kinda takes care of that
Yeah.
section, or, and then what funding can be, available for something like this? Of course, I think that we're going into the worst time of the year to expect to make a difference now.
Yeah, the only thing you do over the winter is de-water something. And so the whole idea is when you de-water something and you lower the water level, the ice will come in.
Mhm.
And then when you come spring, you
Sure.
flood it, and
Oh.
it actually will lift
Yeah,
and pull out all the,
the roots.
I don't know what, yes, and I don't know if you have to then remove.
I don't know, but don't you have to have a dam structure
Yes,
to do
yeah,
that?
oh, yeah, well, you have to
Yeah.
have the ability to
Yeah.
lower it. I mean, you
Right.
can't do it in every water body.
And I'm not sure if this specific species of plants is rooted.
Right, it could be,
It's
yes.
one that's kind of floats on
Yep.
top.
I know this is a bad one, but,
And
so,
sadly, I find out that most of these invasive species, unfortunately, get introduced to bodies of water by recreational
Yep.
boaters. And
you
they come
see all
in-
the signs, and
Yeah.
even though you try,
It's
yeah.
just, it's sad,
Hmm.
but, definitely I'd be
So,
right up for trying to find something to,
so, yeah, so I guess my big thing is, I don't know how CPA funding would be able to be used for this. And I am not an expert on it, because it's for restoration. So, I don't know, cause most of the stuff is being done and I don't know, but you can ask Joanne, cause she
Sure.
definitely knows a hell of a lot more about that stuff than I do.
Okay.
So that would be go there. The other thing is there someone at DEP? Who would be the state person that we would reach out to? So there's a couple questions there. Who owns it? So if something is greater than 10 acres, it's a great lake, a great pond, I should say, and that's state-owned. That I can tell you, but I don't, and there is a list of state ponds. So you can get on Mass GIS, because our survey guys look at that all the time. So if it's a quote, a great pond over 10 acres, the state owns it. So that's why I'm saying, I don't know if any of these are over the 10 acres.
well, yeah, but what do you consider, just where the invasiveness is, or the actual
No, I'm talking about
pond?
who owns the whole pond.
Yeah,
And then who's responsible. And there's gotta be someone
yeah.
at the state level that, I mean, they have a cranberry bog person. They gotta have a pond and lake person.
But my only, okay, this is all part of the Blackstone.
And I have no idea, yeah.
So it's just a little, rest area off the Blackstone.
Right, but it's just how things are defined, so you
Yeah.
have the perennial river, and then you have the pond or the
Yeah.
lake,
Yeah,
and the pond and lake have certain characteristics, so you can define that. But there's gotta be someone on the state level that can help us with, what kind of, and whether CPA funds can be used, I don't know.
Okay.
I'm personally partial to the Hayes Pond, because I go by it all the
Right.
time. But I get what you're trying to do, is to kind of prioritize them and so forth.
So we've never had to, the town has never had to treat.
Town has done this previously.
to Lake Ripple, but I
Yeah.
don't know about Fisherville.
I don't know.
What about the whole Fisherville development? Is there any potential there that, I don't even know, I don't ever go over there, so I don't really know.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I can look more into all of this.
yeah, no, I appreciate it. I mean, I don't know timing when they do the invasive removals typically, whether it's fall or spring or,
I
don't-
think we're sort of heading out of the peak season, like you said.
okay.
So it's kind of something to gear up for next year.
Yep.
Maybe one of the things to talk to the contacts you've made about would be ones that have gotten donations. What is the mechanism that they do that with? Do they set up a certain kind of account?
Yeah.
How do they are they like publicizing this to get the word out so that they get donations? Like, just more information about how they do that would be helpful.
Yeah. It'd be great if you get someone to sponsor a lake or something.
Oh,
Right.
yeah. Like a fisherman-y kind of, you know,
A bank,
Bass
a bank
Pro.
or anything, I mean, well, you have
Oh,
to go
yeah.
where the money is.
right, but I mean, that sort of thing would be
Yeah.
fantastic.
So the other place I would check in with is, Blackstone Watershed.
The group that does the water sampling and that, all that's, okay,
They might have someone there that can help you,
yeah,
so I have no idea, I don't know. But a lot of times those watershed associations will have, they may not have money or they may not have specific things, but they'll have the knowledge
The
of,
resources,
Yeah.
sure.
so. That would be, other than DEP and them,
okay.
you know, so, no, that's, I appreciate that, I mean, it's definitely
Well,
worthwhile to
I
try to.
think that this, before you know it, is just gonna become just a
Yep.
massive choked out body.
Yeah.
It won't be a body of water, it'll be just a.
Yeah, I know that they've done stuff at Lake Ripple, and that was through the town. They dredged it,
They,
Yeah.
yeah, they
Yeah,
did
I
dredging
all
for
that.
sure.
Yeah.
and then part of that dredging is also invasive control. But, yeah, so you might even want to just check with the selectman's office or town
Okay.
administrator's office, so, okay. Anything else? Did we miss anything?
The last thing I have is just because we hit the new fiscal year, boards and commissions are just supposed to have an annual discussion about if they want to reorganize at all.
Who wants to be, chair?
Hmm.
We need, yeah, I mean, we should do a formal thing on that. I would prefer to do that when all four members are here.
Okay.
I think we have to put a push to try to get a fifth member, and not lose anyone else. So,
That's all I have.
okay, fabulous. Do I hear a motion to close the hearing?
I'll motion to close the hearing.
And I will second that.
Fabulous, and all those in favor?